Vexara adjusted her atmospheric adaptation suit as she observed the human settlement from her cloaked position on the ridge. 3 solar cycles on this planet designated Earth, and she still couldn't comprehend how such physically inferior creatures had survived their own evolution. Her species, the Krelaxian, were apex predators, stronger, faster, with natural armor and heightened senses. They had conquered 17 star systems through the simple advantage of biological superiority. Yet something about these humans troubled the Krelaxian High Command, something they couldn't quantify in their assessment metrics. Emotional resilience, Vexara muttered, recording her observations as a human male emerged from a simple wooden structure below. What does that even mean? Her translator implant identified him as Marcus Everett, a wilderness survival instructor. Command had selected him as a subject because he operated at the fringes of human society, where her occasional technological mistakes might go unnoticed. His profile suggested he was exceptionally calm under pressure, a trait the Krelaxian military found perplexing and potentially dangerous. Vexara's species thrived on fear. It sharpened their reflexes, enhanced their already formidable strength, and had ensured their dominance for millennia. A species that could function effectively despite fear, unfathomable. A sudden meteorological alert from her suit interrupted her thoughts. Storm front approaching rapidly, severe conditions predicted. Perfect timing, she hissed, baring her serrated teeth in frustration. She would need to abort today's observation and return to her concealed ship. Descending the ridge, she misjudged her footing on the unfamiliar terrain. Her ankle twisted, and she felt a sharp crack even through her suit. Pain flooded her system, triggering the fear response that was her evolutionary heritage. Her vision sharpened, her breathing accelerated, and her mind screamed at her to flee the coming storm. But she couldn't run, not with a broken ankle. The first heavy raindrops struck her suit as she attempted to drag herself toward shelter. The wind intensified, and thunder rolled across the darkening sky. Her suit's environmental systems warned of electrical discharge hazards. Lightning, another thing this cursed planet excelled at, trying to kill its inhabitants. "Hey, are you okay?" Vexara froze. Her camouflage must have malfunctioned in the fall. The human Marcus was jogging toward her, concern evident on his strangely expressive face. "Stay back," she snarled, instinctively reverting to her native tongue before the translator caught up. "I mean, I'm fine, please leave." He slowed but didn't stop. "You're injured, and there's a hell of a storm rolling in. Let me help you to shelter." "I don't need help from she caught herself, "from a stranger." Marcus crouched beside her, seemingly untroubled by her strange appearance or hostile tone. Rain plastered his dark hair to his forehead as he assessed her injury with practiced movements. "That looks bad, my cabin's closest. I've got medical supplies there." Before she could protest further, the sky cracked open. Lightning struck a tree barely 50 meters away, splitting it with an explosive force that made even Vexara's battle-hardened nerves jangle. To her astonishment, Marcus barely flinched. Instead, he wrapped a supportive arm around her and helped her stand. "Lean on me, we need to move now." His calm voice cut through her rising panic. The fear response that would have driven a Krelaxian to either fight or flee seemed absent in him. Not suppressed, simply channeled differently. As they limped toward shelter with thunder crashing around them, Vexara found herself studying his face. There was something in his eyes, not the absence of fear, but something else. Something she had no reference for in her species' emotional lexicon. "I'm Marcus, by the way," he said, adjusting his grip to better support her weight. "Vexara," she replied before she could stop herself. "Unusual name, not from around here, I'm guessing." The understatement was so absurd that Vexara felt a strange sensation bubbling up inside her, something like amusement, but warmer. "You could say that," she managed as they reached the cabin door. "I'm very far from home." For the first time in her life, that thought didn't trigger fear, and that perhaps was the most unsettling discovery of all. 3 Earth weeks had passed since the storm. Vexara's ankle had healed with remarkable speed, thanks to her species' advanced biology and the portable regenerator she'd smuggled from her ship. Marcus had asked surprisingly few questions about her unusual appearance or the strange technology he'd glimpsed. Instead, he'd simply offered her the guest room in his cabin until she got back on her feet. His words, not hers. Humans had such peculiar expressions. You're starring again, Marcus said, not looking up from the fire he was building in the stone hearth. Outside, the autumn air had turned crisp, painting the surrounding forest in vibrant colors that Vexara's multifaceted eyes found almost painfully beautiful. I'm observing, she corrected, making another note in her research log. There's a difference. Hum. Marcus struck a match and held it to the kindling. Most people who observe don't take notes or have purple eyes that reflect light like a cat's. Vexara closed her log abruptly. I told you, it's a rare genetic condition. Sure, he stood, brushing his hands on his jeans. And I suppose the clicking sounds you make when you're sleeping are also genetic. Heat rushed to Vexara's facial ridges, the Krelaxian equivalent of a blush. The sleeping vocalizations were an embarrassing evolutionary remnant, something juveniles usually outgrew. She hadn't made those sounds since her early training years. I don't know what you're talking about, she muttered. Marcus smiled, a warm expression that created strange, fluttering sensations in Vexara's secondary digestive chamber. It's okay. Your secrets are safe with me. He moved to the kitchen and began preparing something he called hot chocolate. A bittersweet beverage that Vexara had reluctantly admitted was superior to any stimulant her species had developed. Today I'm taking a group through wilderness first aid training, he said. You're welcome to join us. Vexara hesitated. The invitation presented an excellent research opportunity, but it also meant revealing herself to more humans. Even with the biological camouflage her suit provided, altering her skin texture and hiding her more alien features, it was risky. I'll maintain adequate distance, she decided, for observation purposes. Whatever makes you comfortable, Marcus replied, handing her a steaming mug. Their fingers brushed, and Vexara felt an inexplicable surge of electrical activity along her neural pathways. She quickly attributed it to a malfunction in her translator implant. Later that afternoon, she watched from the edge of the clearing as Marcus demonstrated emergency response techniques to a small group of humans. His confidence was mesmerizing. He spoke of worst-case scenarios with a calm assurance that seemed to transfer to his students. Vexara's communication device suddenly vibrated against her wrist. A warning from her ship's automated systems, fire detection in the vicinity, moving rapidly with the wind, directly toward their location. She checked her environmental scanner. The blaze was substantial, consuming the drought-stricken forest with alarming speed. Her species' survival instinct kicked in immediately, flooding her system with fight-or-flight chemicals. Every fiber of her being screamed to run. Instead, she found herself moving toward Marcus. Fire, she said urgently when she reached him. Coming this way, 3 kilometers and closing. To her astonishment, he didn't question how she knew. Everyone, he called to the group, we need to evacuate immediately, forest fire approaching from the west. What happened next defied Krelaxian logic. Instead of maximizing their own survival chances, the humans organized. They checked maps, called emergency services, and formed a plan to warn nearby campers. You should go, Marcus told her as he gathered emergency supplies. Get somewhere safe. And you, Vexara demanded. I need to make sure everyone gets out. There's a family at the Pine Ridge campsite who might not know what's coming. Vexara stared at him, incomprehension battling with something new stirring inside her. Why would you risk your life for strangers? Marcus paused, studying her face with an intensity that made her want to look away. Because I can help, he said simply. Wouldn't you? No, she wouldn't. Krelaxian philosophy was clear, survival of the fittest. The strong lived, the weak perished. It was the natural order. Yet here was Marcus, defying that fundamental principle without hesitation. I'm coming with you, she heard herself say. The inferno roared closer as they raced toward the campsite in Marcus's vehicle. Smoke darkened the sky and ash rained down like toxic snow. Vexara's suit filtered the worst of it, but fear still coursed through her veins, not just for herself, but for Marcus, for the strangers at the campsite. It was a sensation so alien that she could barely process it. When they reached the family, 2 adults and 3 young offspring, Vexara watched Marcus calmly organize their evacuation, his steady voice cutting through their panic. The youngest human was crying, frozen with terror. Without thinking, Vexara knelt beside the small female. Focus on my voice, she said, using techniques from Krelaxian combat training. Breathe with me. Fear is just energy. You can use it. The child's sobs quieted. She nodded, taking Vexara's outstretched hand. As they drove away from the advancing flames, Marcus glanced at Vexara, something like pride in his eyes. You were afraid back there, he observed, but you stayed anyway. Yes, Vexara admitted softly. I don't understand it. That's what courage is, he said. Not being fearless, being afraid, and doing what needs to be done anyway. Vexara stared out at the burning forest, her perception of the universe subtly but irrevocably shifting. In her entire military career, she had never considered that fear could be more than just a survival mechanism. That night, watching Marcus coordinate with emergency services, she made a new entry in her log. Humans don't survive despite their fear. They survive because of how they use it. It was a concept that would change everything, for her research, for her mission, and most disturbingly, for her heart. You want me to what? Marcus stared at Vexara, his eyes wide with disbelief. Enter my vessel, she repeated, her translator implant struggling to convey the significance of the invitation. In Krelaxian culture, this is unprecedented. No outsider has ever been invited aboard a research craft voluntarily. 3 weeks had passed since the wildfire. 3 weeks of conversations that stretched from dawn until the stars emerged, of growing understanding between worlds that should never have connected. 3 weeks of Vexara questioning everything she had been taught about humans and about herself. I just didn't think alien spacecraft were part of your research protocol, Marcus said with that smile that always made her secondary heart chamber flutter strangely. They're not, she admitted. This is personal. The word hung between them, heavy with implications neither was ready to voice. Vexara had already transmitted modified reports to High Command, emphasizing human unpredictability rather than their potential as allies. It was the first time she had ever falsified data. The first time she had placed someone, above her mission. Later that night, they stood at the edge of the forest clearing where her ship lay concealed. With a gesture from Vexara, the cloaking field dissipated, revealing the sleek, predatory lines of the vessel that reflected the Krelaxian evolutionary heritage. It's beautiful, Marcus whispered. It's designed to inspire fear, she corrected him. Beauty and fear aren't mutually exclusive. His hand found hers in the darkness, his 5 fingers intertwining with her 4 in a gesture that had become familiar. I'm learning that from you. Inside, the ship's interior lighting adjusted to accommodate human vision. Vexara watched Marcus's face as he took in the organic curves of Krelaxian technology, so different from the angular, mechanical constructions of Earth. These are navigation charts, she explained, activating a holographic display with a gesture. This is my homeworld, Krelax Prime. These are the 17 systems under our protection. Protection, Marcus repeated, his tone neutral. Is that what you call it? Vexara felt heat rise to her facial ridges. It's what I was taught to call it. And now? Now I'm uncertain. The admission cost her, but she had learned from Marcus that vulnerability wasn't weakness. My people believe that fear is clarity, that domination is kindness, preventing other species from making mistakes that might lead to their own destruction. Marcus stepped closer to the star chart, his fingers hovering over Earth's position. And us, what does High Command have planned for humans? The question she had been dreading. Vexara moved to a different console, summoning her courage. This is my quarters, she said instead of answering. Would you like to see? The private chamber was small but personalized with artifacts from worlds she had studied, small tokens that had caught her scientific interest. Marcus examined them with careful fingers, respecting their significance even without understanding it. You've seen so many worlds, he said softly. Does Earth seem very primitive to you? Different, she corrected. Your technology follows different evolutionary paths, as do your emotions. She stepped closer, drawn by something she couldn't name. Among her kind, proximity was threat or submission. With Marcus, it was something else entirely, a desire to bridge the gap between their species, to find connection in their differences. The Krelaxian have no word for what I feel when I'm with you, she admitted. The closest translation would be fear without danger, a useless emotion we've bred out of our genetics. We call it excitement, Marcus said, or anticipation, sometimes desire. The ship's alarm shattered the moment. Red emergency lighting flooded the chamber as an automated voice announced a containment breach in the propulsion section. Vexara's body responded instantly, fear reaction flooding her system with combat hormones. The auxiliary plasma conduit. It's volatile when exposed to your atmosphere. She moved toward the door, but Marcus caught her arm. What will happen? Best case, localized explosion. Worst case, half this forest disappears. Her voice was tight with strain. I need to reach the engineering bay. Then I'm coming with you. It's too dangerous for a human. His eyes met hers, steady and determined. Didn't we establish that danger isn't what determines courage? The corridors seemed longer as they raced toward engineering, the ship's warning systems screaming in Galaxian. At the sealed compartment door, Vexara hesitated. The manual override requires exposure to the breach, she explained. The radiation will be uncomfortable. Uncomfortable for you means potentially lethal for me. She couldn't lie to him. Yes. Then tell me what to do from here. Her hands shook as she explained the sequence. It would require her to enter the chamber alone, to face the plasma breach with only minimal protection. As a scientist rather than an engineer, her training for this was minimal. Her species' instinct was to flee from such danger, not confront it. I can't, she whispered, her body trembling with the overwhelming fear response. I'm not built for this. Marcus took her face between his hands, the gesture so intimate it momentarily shocked her out of her panic. Neither am I, he said, but sometimes we do things not because we're built for them, but because they need doing. His forehead pressed against hers. You taught me about your world, let me show you something about mine. He kissed her, a human gesture she had studied but never experienced. The sensation of his lips against her mouth ridge sent a shock through her system stronger than any fear response. When he pulled away, her mind was clear. Together, Vexara said, we do this together. And as they prepared to face the breach, she finally understood what her people had misunderstood about humans all along. Their power wasn't in being fearless, it was in finding something worth facing fear for. The holographic projection of Commander Drescar towered in the center of Vexara's ship, his ridged face contorted in what humans might mistake for anger, but she recognized as calculated intimidation. Your transmission delays are unacceptable, research specialist, he growled, and your latest reports contain inconsistencies. Vexara stood at formal attention, grateful that Marcus was safely back at his cabin, unaware of this communication. 3 days had passed since they had sealed the plasma breach together. 3 days of something she now recognized as happiness, an emotion considered dangerously inefficient in Galaxian culture. The atmospheric conditions on Earth sometimes interfere with. Do not insult my intelligence. Drescar's eyes narrowed to slits. We've been monitoring your ship's activity, unauthorized power cycling, unusual atmospheric entry patterns, and most concerning, foreign biosignatures aboard a classified research vessel. Ice flooded Vexara's veins. Commander, I can explain. Your extraction has been ordered. The Dominant Council has reviewed your early reports on human adaptability and deemed this species worthy of special attention. The euphemism wasn't lost on her. Special attention meant subjugation, then selective breeding to enhance useful traits while eliminating troublesome ones like individuality and emotional autonomy. The invasion fleet launches in 12 planetary cycles, Drescar continued. You will be retrieved and debriefed before the operation commences. Your contaminated research vessel will be sterilized upon your transfer. Sterilized, the word echoed in her mind. Any trace of Marcus, any evidence of their connection would be eliminated. Commander, my research is incomplete, she protested. Humans are more complex than our initial assessments indicated. Their emotional responses, particularly under threat, suggest. Your extraction shuttle arrives in 48 Earth hours. Be prepared. His image flickered. And Vexara, any attempt to warn the humans will be considered treason against the Dominion. The projection vanished, leaving her alone in the sudden silence. Hours later, she stood at Marcus's door, her heart's pounding with an emotion her species had no name for, something between dread and desperate longing. He opened the door, his smile fading as he saw her face. What's wrong? I need to tell you something, she said. Everything. Inside, as night fell around them, Vexara finally revealed the full truth about her mission, about her people's intentions for Earth, about the extraction order. With each word, she watched his expression shift from disbelief to hurt to something harder, colder. "So this whole time," Marcus said when she finished, his voice unnervingly calm, "you were just gathering intelligence for an invasion." "At first, yes." She reached for his hand, but he pulled away. "But Marcus, everything changed. I changed. What I've learned about humans, about you, it contradicts everything my people believe. And I'm supposed to trust that." He stood, packing the small cabin. "Your people are coming to selectively breed us into submission, and you waited until now to mention it." "I'm risking execution by telling you at all." The outburst surprised them both. "Krelaxians don't betray the Dominion. We don't question orders. We don't." Her voice broke. "We don't fall in love with research subjects." The word hung between them. Love. A concept her people considered mythological, a weakness purged from their genetic line generations ago. Marcus stared at her, his anger visibly warring with something else. "If what you're saying is true, we have 48 hours before your extraction team arrives. And then what? 12 days until an invasion fleet." "Yes. And you're telling me this now because I want to stop it." The certainty in her voice surprised her. "I want to show my people they're wrong about humans, about coexistence being weakness." Marcus was silent for a long moment, studying her with an intensity that made her want to look away. But she forced herself to meet his gaze, to let him see the truth in her eyes. "I should hate you right now," he finally said. "I should throw you out and call every government agency I can think of." "That would be logical," she agreed quietly. "But nothing about this has been logical from the start." He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "Your people think fear makes you stronger. Mine know it's what we do despite fear that defines us." He crossed to her, stopping just short of touching her. "If you're lying to me now, you could have just left without warning me. The fact that you're here risking everything," he exhaled slowly. "Tell me how to stop this." Relief coursed through her, so powerful she nearly collapsed. "The extraction shuttle will be automated, controlled from the command ship. If I don't board, they'll come looking for me with more troops. So we need to make you disappear and get a message to your leaders that humans aren't what they think." Not just a message, Vexara's mind raced. Evidence, irrefutable proof that subjugating humans would be a catastrophic mistake. What kind of proof would convince a species that's conquered 17 star systems to leave us alone? Vexara looked up at him, an idea forming. Among her people, there was one sacred protocol that even the dominant council couldn't ignore, the protection claim. It hadn't been invoked in generations, but the law remained intact. "There is a way," she said slowly. "But it would mean neither of us could ever go back to our old lives. It would bind us together under Krelaxian law in ways you can't imagine." Marcus took her hands, his touch sending warmth through her alien physiology. 12 days until your people arrive to enslave my entire species. I think we're already past the point of going back." Their foreheads touched, and in that moment of connection, Vexara felt something her evolutionary biology had never prepared her for, hope that transcended fear. "Then we have work to do," she whispered, "and not much time." The dominant council chamber aboard the Krelaxian command ship hummed with tension. 7 apex predators, the evolutionary elite of a species that had conquered nearly a fifth of the galaxy, stared down at the unprecedented sight before them. A Krelaxian researcher standing proudly beside a human male, their hands joined in defiance of every protocol. "Research Specialist Vexara," intoned High Counselor Moxtari, her voice carrying the harmonic undertones that signaled supreme authority. "Your actions constitute treason of the highest order. Explain yourself before execution is ordered." Marcus felt Vexara's grip tighten minutely on his hand. Their plan had been audacious, using her research vessel's emergency beacon to transmit directly to the command ship, invoking the ancient right of audience that even the dominant council couldn't legally deny. But now, facing these predatory gazes, he understood why her species inspired such terror across the stars. "Honored Council," Vexara began, her voice steady despite the fiery action he knew was coursing through her system. "I invoke the protection claim as established in the Founding Compact, Article 7. A ripple of disbelief passed through the council members. Moxtari's inner eyelids flickered rapidly. The protection claim is a theoretical construct, she dismissed. It has not been invoked in 12 generations. Nevertheless, it remains law, Vexara countered. I claim protection for Earth and its dominant species on grounds of exceptional value to the Dominion. Commander Dreskar, standing to the side of the council dais, snarled. This is absurdity. The human has compromised her reasoning. Her research clearly indicated that humans, while adaptable, are physically inferior and technologically primitive. My initial assessment was incomplete, Vexara replied. Humans possess a quality our species has sacrificed in our evolutionary pursuit of dominance, a quality that, if harvested through alliance rather than subjugation, could revolutionize the Dominion's future. Marcus stepped forward, feeling the weight of humanity's fate on his shoulders. Vexara had coached him extensively during their desperate journey to intercept the command ship, explaining Krelaxian culture, physiology, and most importantly, their psychological blind spots. Your species evolved to use fear as a weapon, he addressed the council directly, ignoring Dreskar's outraged hiss at his presumption. You embraced it so completely that you've forgotten its greatest weakness. Silence the human, Dreskar demanded, but Moxtari raised a clawed hand. The protection claim grants speaking rights to the protected, she reminded him coolly. Continue, human. Fear narrows focus, Marcus explained. It's excellent for immediate survival but terrible for innovation. Your 17 conquered systems all followed the same pattern, initial resistance, then capitulation, then stagnation. You're not creating an empire, you're building a museum. A dangerous stillness fell over the council. Vexara had warned him that speaking such truths aloud was unprecedented in their culture. And you believe humans are different? Moxtari inquired, her tone deceptively mild. Humans thrive on adversity, Vexara interjected. They seek it out voluntarily. Their entertainment, their scientific advancement, even their mating rituals incorporate challenge by design. She activated a holographic display, showing footage she had secretly recorded during her time on Earth. Rock climbers scaling impossible cliffs, scientists working tirelessly in laboratories, rescue workers rushing into burning buildings. Humans call it courage, she continued. The capacity to acknowledge fear yet act despite it, not because fear enhances performance but because they value something more than their own survival. A touching sentiment, sneered one counselor, but hardly evidence of evolutionary advantage. Marcus stepped forward again. Your own history proves otherwise. The Krelaxian technological advancement rate has slowed with each conquered system. Your conformity of thought has created efficiency, but eliminated the creative chaos that drives true innovation. He nodded to Vexara, who activated the second part of their presentation, a detailed analysis of Krelaxian technological development over the past 1,000 years, showing the plateauing effect that matched his assertion. Humans are different, Marcus continued. We're fractious, argumentative, and often irrational, but those same qualities make us adaptable in ways your species has forgotten. Vexara moved closer to him, their shoulders touching in a gesture that sent a clear message to the council. I have experienced this difference firsthand. This human taught me to recognize fear not as a weapon, but as a threshold to be crossed. Together, we survived challenges neither of us could have faced alone. She raised their joined hands. This is the true power humans offer, partnership that enhances rather than diminishes, alliance rather than subjugation. Moxtari studied them for a long moment, her ancient eyes unreadable. And the protection claim? You understand what you're proposing. I do, Vexara affirmed. By our oldest laws, I bind my life to this human and his species. If the Council accepts my claim, Earth becomes protected territory for a minimum of 100 cycles, with myself and Marcus serving as liaison between our peoples. And should your claim be rejected? Dreskar asked, anticipation evident in his stance. Then we both die here, she stated simply, and the invasion proceeds as planned. The council chamber fell silent again, the only sound the low hum of the ship's massive engines. Marcus felt a strange calm settle over him. Whatever happened now, they had tried. Vexara had risked everything to stand with him, with humanity. After what seemed an eternity, Moxtari rose from her seat. The council will deliberate. Hours later, standing in a holding cell designed for creatures twice his size, Marcus heard the door mechanism activate. Vexara entered, her expression giving nothing away. "Well," he asked, heart-hammering. "The protection claim has been accepted," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "Earth is classified as protected territory effective immediately. The invasion fleet has been reassigned." The relief was so overwhelming that Marcus had to sit down. They actually agreed just like that. "Not just like that," Vexara admitted, sitting beside him. "Moxtari is pragmatic. She recognized the strategic advantage of alliance over conquest, especially after reviewing my complete research data." "Which conveniently supported our argument," Marcus said with a small smile. "Science doesn't lie," Vexara replied, returning his smile with her own alien version, "even when it's selectively presented." She reached for his hand, their fingers intertwining in what had become a familiar comfort. "There will be challenges ahead. You and I will serve as the first ambassadors between our species. Many on both sides will resist the change." "I'm not worried," Marcus said, pulling her closer. "We've already faced the impossible together. Everything else is just details." As her forehead pressed against his in their private gesture of intimacy, Vexara marveled at how completely her understanding of the universe had transformed. She had come to Earth believing fear was the ultimate truth of existence, the driving force behind all life. Instead, she had discovered something far more powerful. "The Council asked me something before rendering their decision," she murmured against his skin. "They asked why I, who had never shown fear in battle, would risk everything for an alien species." "What did you tell them?" Marcus asked. "I told them I had discovered the one thing in the universe stronger than fear." Her four-fingered hand caressed his face. "Love isn't a weakness, as my people believed. It's the ultimate courage, choosing someone else's well-being over your own survival instinct." "That's a lesson worth crossing the stars to learn," he whispered. Beyond the viewport of the holding cell, Earth shimmered like a blue jewel against the blackness of space. No longer a target for conquest, but a beginning, for them and for both their species. In the vast, cold expanse of the cosmos, they had found something neither evolution nor technology could provide: the courage to challenge 1,000 generations of certainty for the chance at something new. Together,